But what I want to do now just for a moment is I want to step back. I want to ask, what's the bigger picture? What is God doing here in this situation? Let's look at the bigger picture. What is really going on? Here's our second text. Jeremiah 48, since you trust in your deeds and riches, you too will be taken captive. So my heart laments for Moab like a flute. The wealth they acquired is gone. So in Jeremiah, God is not only the judge of Israel, God is the judge of all the nations, all the gathered groups of people. God is still their ruler. He's their creator and he's their ruler. And Moab was a nation that God was bringing judgment upon. And one of the ways that he was bringing that judgment is he was taking their wealth. He was taking their prosperity. Now let me ask you, what are we seeing right now as we've gone through these slides? What are we seeing? Is not God taking our wealth? Think about it. He's shut down the entire economy. He's brought it to a screeching halt. He's brought this virus around. He's allowed us to become so fearful. We've shut down the entire economy because of it. And behind it, we have to see the hand of God. He is shutting our economy down. And then he's also allowing us to increase this debt. He's saying, go ahead. I'm not going to give you wisdom. You've rejected me. This is part of my judgment. Here you go. How about this? Increase your debt. 200 years of debt in 9 months. So, if we see that the wealth they acquired is gone here in this judgment, we must conclude the same thing from the text, that the reason God is bringing this judgment upon us and taking our wealth is because we have become trusting in our deeds and our riches. We have idols, and the idol is our wealth. And under this idol, we have hidden so many sins. You see, we look out there and we see that we're prosperous. We see that the economy's doing great. We see that we've got 2 cars in every garage, and we go to the beach for 2 weeks, and we've got money aplenty. We go out to eat all the time. We've got all this money. And underneath that prosperity, we have all of this sin that we justify. And we think, hey, we're doing well. We're prosperous. There's either God doesn't care, God doesn't exist, or He's not going to do anything. So why not just do whatever we want? You see, we have come to trust in our deeds and our riches. And you can see this in the response to the stimulus. I saw it even among God's own people. Look at this here from the Washington Post. Dow swells nearly 500 points as Wall Street stretches stock rally into second day. A breakthrough on a $2 trillion stimulus package and backstops from the Federal Reserve elevate investors' outlook. You see, what we're doing is we're turning to the government. We have a crisis and we turn to the government. Instead of turning to God and saying, God, what are you doing here? And why are you doing this to us? And what is on your mind? We turn to the government and we turn right back to the wealth that is the problem anyway. And we go, our money will save us. Handed out by the wonderful, beautiful, wise, all-powerful federal government. Even God's own people, waiting for those checks, looking for those checks. Sigh of relief when the stimulus was passed. So we're like Dagon. You remember that? The story from the Old Testament where the Philistines had taken the ark and placed it in the temple of their god Dagon. And they came in the next morning and Dagon had fallen on his face flat. So they took Dagon and they put him back up. And the next morning they came back and he fell down flat and he was all broken to pieces. And finally they got the ark out of there. All right, this is what we're doing. God is knocking this idol down. He's saying government and money and all of this evil I'm knocking down. And what do? We turn right back to the idol. We set it right back up and we put our trust in it. You see, here is what is happening. God is bringing this judgment upon us. Call it what you want. I think the word judgment is a very fair word. He is bringing His judgment. He is punishing us. He is disciplining us for our idolatry and our evil. And He's placed before us this trial, this suffering, this discipline, which is right now the virus. But 10 years ago, it was the '08 economic collapse. And then 10 years before that, it was 9/11. And 10 years before that, it was the first Gulf War. He has been disciplining us for years. And what we do, though, instead of yielding to this and being blessed by it, saying, God, what is it that you want? Repenting and turning, we sidestep. We take our resources, we take our money, and we try and fix the problem so that we don't have to endure the suffering. But the problem is, eventually, this suffering will not be avoidable. And what we're doing is, you see the picture here is of someone behind a set of bars. Remember what I told you about the servant of the slave of the lender? We're going to put ourselves in a much worse condition. Whereas now if we repented, now if we turned to God, now if we started to get our house in order financially, put away our idols of gold and silver, we have time to avoid a terrible calamity and catastrophe. But we're not going to do that. We're still going to worship our idol. And so down the road, there won't be any good end to this. There won't be anything but a total collapse. If we do not yield and repent now, we may survive this round of discipline. Things may get better. They may not totally collapse now. We may be able to sidestep this landmine right now. But eventually, we will be destroyed. This debt will take us down. It will be the end of the great nation that we have. And it all stems back to idolatry.